In the heart of Arabia, in the sacred city of Makkah, stood the Kaaba, the ancient sanctuary built for the worship of the one God, Allah. But by the 6th century, the Kaaba had been corrupted. Around it stood hundreds of idols, placed by the Quraysh and other tribes, who had filled the house of God with false worship. Arabia was a land without central law or justice. Power belonged to the strongest clans, and the weak had little protection. It was in this environment, around the year 570 CE, known as the Year of the Elephant, that Muhammad ibn Abdullah was born. His father had died before his birth, and his mother passed away when he was just 6 years old. Left an orphan, he was cared for first by his grandfather Abdul Muttalib, and after his death by his uncle Abu Talib. Though poor, Abu Talib was respected among the Quraysh, and under his guardianship, Muhammad SAW was protected. From a young age, the Prophet SAW was known for his honesty, trustworthiness, and noble character. The people of Makkah gave him the title Al-Amin, the trustworthy. He worked first as a shepherd, then as a merchant, traveling with caravans across Arabia and beyond. His reputation for truth and integrity reached the ears of Khadijah, a wealthy and noble widow of Makkah. She employed him to trade on her behalf, and upon seeing his honesty and upright conduct, she offered him marriage. Muhammad SAW accepted, and thus began a partnership that was both loving and supportive. Despite his outward success, Muhammad SAW was deeply troubled by the corruption, injustice, and idolatry around him. Every year during the month of Ramadan, he would leave the noise of the city and retreat to the cave of Hira, a quiet place in the mountains near Makkah. There he would reflect, pray, and seek closeness to Allah, following the way of the prophets before him. It was during one of these retreats, when he was about 40 years old, that a moment occurred which would change the course of history forever. One night, in the cave of Hira, as Muhammad ﷺ devoted himself to worship, the angel Gabriel, suddenly appeared before him. The mighty angel commanded him, "Iqra," read. The Prophet ﷺ, who could neither read nor write, replied that he was not of those who read. The angel embraced him firmly, repeating the command 3 times until the words of revelation flowed into his heart. The first verses of the Qur'an were revealed. Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clot. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man what he did not know. Shaken by this experience, the Prophet ﷺ rushed home to Khadijah, his heart trembling. She comforted him, covered him with the cloak, and reassured him of his honesty, kindness, and noble character. She took him to her cousin Waraka ibn Nawfal, a learned man familiar with the scriptures. Waraka confirmed that what Muhammad ﷺ had experienced was the same angel who had come to Musa, Moses. He foretold that Muhammad ﷺ was chosen as the prophet of this nation and that his people would oppose him fiercely. From that moment, the mission of Islam began. The Prophet ﷺ called first in private. His wife Khadijah, his close friend Abu Bakr, his cousin Ali ibn Abi Talib, and his servant Zayd ibn Haritha were among the first to accept Islam.
Slowly the message spread. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. As the message gained followers, the Quraysh grew restless. The Prophet ﷺ challenged their idols, their corruption, and their unjust treatment of the weak. For the powerful families of Mecca, this was a direct threat to their authority and wealth. They mocked him, persecuted his followers, and tried to silence him by any means. Yet, despite their cruelty, the number of Muslims grew. The Prophet ﷺ and his companions endured torture, exile, and boycott, but their faith did not waver. In those difficult years, two great tragedies struck him: the death of his beloved wife Khadija, and soon after, the death of his protective uncle Abu Talib. The year became known as the Year of Sorrow. Yet, in the midst of despair, Allah granted him hope through the miraculous journey of Al-Isra wal-Miraj.
One night, the Prophet ﷺ was taken by the angel Jibreel upon a wondrous steed called Al-Buraq from Mecca to Jerusalem. There he led the prophets of Allah in prayer, affirming his role as the final messenger. From Jerusalem he was taken up through the heavens, where he met earlier prophets, saw paradise and hellfire, and was brought into the divine presence. It was there that Allah commanded him and his followers to establish 5 daily prayers, a gift and obligation that remains at the heart of Islam to this day. This night journey, Al-Isra wal-Miraj, gave strength to the Prophet ﷺ and his companions during their hardest trials. As persecution in Mecca worsened, a new opportunity arose. Leaders from the city of Yathrib invited the Prophet ﷺ and his followers to come and bring peace between their feuding tribes. One by one, Muslims migrated north, leaving behind their homes and wealth. Finally, when Allah gave permission, the Prophet himself made the journey, known as the Hijrah. With his closest companion, Abu Bakr, at his side, he traveled secretly through the desert, escaping assassination attempts and hiding in a cave where Allah protected them with miraculous signs. When he arrived, Yathrib became Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara, the radiant city. From there, Islam grew into a community with the Prophet ﷺ as its leader. But Mecca did not forgive easily. Battles soon followed. At Badr, though the Muslims were only 313 against 1,000, Allah granted them victory. At Uhud, the Muslims faced hardship when some disobeyed the Prophet's orders and the Quraysh struck back. At Al-Khandaq, the Battle of the Trench, the Muslims defended Medina by digging a vast tactic that halted the Quraysh and their allies. Storms and fear broke the enemy's will, and Medina remained safe. Through victory and loss, the Muslims learned obedience, patience, and reliance on Allah.
After years of struggle, treaties were signed, but the Quraysh soon broke their promises. The Prophet gathered an army of more than 10,000 and marched toward Makkah. The Quraysh, realizing their defeat was certain, surrendered without resistance. The Prophet entered the city not as a tyrant, but as a merciful leader. He forgave his former enemies, declaring, Go, for you are free. He cleansed the Kaaba of its idols, restoring it as the pure sanctuary of the one God, Allah, just as Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam had built it. From that day, Islam was firmly established across Arabia. Tribes entered the faith in great numbers, drawn by its justice, mercy, and truth. In his final years, the Prophet delivered the farewell sermon, standing before more than 100,000 believers. He reminded them of the sanctity of life, the equality of all people, the rights of women, and the trust of the Qur'an and Sunnah. His words remain a timeless guide. Yani, I leave behind me two things, the Book of Allah and my Sunnah. If you hold firmly to them, you will never go astray. Soon after, the Prophet returned to his Lord. His mission was complete. The Quran was preserved, the community of believers was established, and the message of Islam began its journey across the world. Islam spread not by conquest alone, but through trade, scholarship, and the hearts of men and women who carried the light of faith to every corner of the earth. Today, over 1 billion people testify to the same words revealed in the cave of Hira.